All right, so we are here taking a look at Throes of the Javelin, and I am joined by two of the development team, Garbanzo Goon and MatterLinx. So let's go ahead and switch over to the game here. And I guess we'll just sort of go one by one. I always just do this alphabetically, but if you could sort of introduce yourselves and discuss what your role on the project was. So I guess just starting with Garbanzo Gun, if you can talk a little bit about, well, specifically what your role was on the project and also maybe a little bit of your background in game development.
All right. Hey, gang. Name is Garbanzo Goon. You can call me that, or my real name, Idan. Um, I've been making games with MatterLinx for 4 years now, 5 years. It's been a moment. For the most part, we've just been doing game jams on Ludum Dare, the occasional itch.io game jam here and there, but mainly focusing on Ludum Dare. And I've been the main artist for the team. I've done the pixel art, the tile sets, the auto-tiling rules in Tiled, the character animations, all that. All the fancy particle effects, line renders, cool shaders, that's all MatterLinx.
Nice.
Yeah. I have a background in computer science, but I've not done any coding on this project.
Okay, sounds good. And then MatterLinx for your part.
Yeah, hey, my name is MatterLinx. Real name is Mark. I did the programming for this project and a tiny bit of the art and VFX. When it comes to my background, I'm actually in the robotics industry, so game dev has just kind of been my hobby. And we've both made games on and off for the past, 4 or 5 years. Contributed some Ludum Dares, but we've never scored too high until this year, so we're pretty happy about that.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, we're just excited about this game, about the future of this game, and exploring it further.
Nice. Yeah, congratulations on the placement, by the way. This is, whoop. Why don't you just call that open here? Because in addition to just getting good scores all around, this is actually the third overall game in terms of the the overall placement. So 10th in fun, 18th in innovation, 23rd in graphics, 14th in mood or audio, and then 29th in mood. So just like really stellar ratings all across the board.
Hell yeah. Every game that we've done, we're like, okay, this one's going to be the top 10 one, this one's going to be the top 10 one. Getting top 10 in like multiple categories feels great finally.
Yeah, the funny thing is we've always wanted to do a platformer. And this year we finally did it, and we praised pretty highly, so we're happy about that.
Every time we get into design, we come up with like one or two really cool ideas that we want to explore further. And we're like, but it would be so cool if we could do this and this level of polish. What if we had this mechanic? This would like completely turn the game around. It'd be like a cool moment for the player to realize like the breadth of the mechanic. And then once we get like into the nitty-gritty of it, we're like, okay, this game can be done in like 3 days if we really push ourselves. Which means realistically it's going to be done in 2 weeks if we make decent headway. So the game's, I think we have like a 50% or 60% completion rate on jam entries. There's plenty of unfinished stuff that didn't come to light just because we scope really big. But we kept saying like, I've been setting like bi-yearly timers on my phone every time the Dendari comes around next. So like this time, make the platformer, make something simple that you can polish like to the extreme, just do it. And we follow through on this one.
Nice. I'm so glad that finally came together for you, and in such dramatic fashion as well. So can you talk a little bit about the inspiration behind this game, aside like the I guess the specific mechanic, aside from the concept of just wanting to make a platformer?
So I've been seeing a lot of comments left on itch.io and Ludum Dare being like, this reminds me of Volgar the Viking, or this reminds me of, there's like a bow staff throwing game that's coming out, or this reminds me of Pokepoke.
Yeah.
I have seen Pokepoke, I have not seen the other ones before this. The origin of this game is I just wrote in a Discord notes channel like 5 years ago. Game idea, young spear thrower throws spear at wall, makes platform. And I've been trying to pivot like twist the wording of every single theme we've had for every game jam we've done to be like, I want to do this mechanic, I want to do this mechanic, I want to do this mechanic. And for summoning, I think it's worked. As far as real inspiration goes, I think Celeste. I don't think it's too secret if you take a look around. The tassel switching from red and blue, the platforming, a little bit of the art style. We try to divert from Celeste in that regard, but even there, you're collecting. In the code, it's called a berry. So.
Yeah, these berries are... Well, I appreciate that they're not mandatory for collection because I've had so much difficulty in actually gathering them. I'm going to try my best, but, you know, if it gets too painful, I'll just move on.
We've tried to kind of work the accessibility into the gameplay, being like, we wanted the players to go through the game using the momentum mechanics, pulling the spear back and throwing it to kind of give yourself double jumps. And then the creating a platform by throwing the spear into the wall is supposed to be like the slow and methodical way of doing it. So if you don't want to take the risk and do like the cool movement mechanic, you can just throw the spear at the wall, make a platform, and do it easy way. And then in the same aspect, like the collectibles, they're not mandatory. It's just if you want to push yourself.
Yeah.
So into the mechanics of the game, the accessibility we're looking for is like the optional choosing the hard routes. And that's something I was actually interested in talking with you because I played Worlds Within Worlds, and you had a very interesting accessibility mechanic, the butterfly.
It's a great accessibility mechanic that I borrowed from Super Mario Galaxy.
Oh, I had no idea.
Well, that's the funny thing is like you mentioned like, oh, you know, the like throw spear make platform thing is something that you hadn't had prior exposure to, and I saw that mechanic. I'm like, oh, cool! It's like Volgar the Viking. I've never played Volgar the Viking. I just remember seeing that mechanic, and obviously you've done more with it here. But it's just sometimes funny the way that we sort of like get this independent evolution of ideas because you just sort of rediscover something that, or see a new implementation of something that someone else had done before. Doesn't mean like, oh gosh, you're never allowed to use that mechanic in a game ever again. Like, goodness knows where would the industry be if every game was not allowed to reuse mechanics that had ever been used before.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the momentum component kind of came afterwards. Originally, the idea was just to use the platforms, but we kind of explored the idea of using momentum to increase the skill cap and maybe add some more interesting movement. But we did design all of the levels to be completed without the use of momentum at all. So yeah, every puzzle in the game right now can be completed without momentum, just using the platforms.
Yeah, I did see that there was a little bit of speedrunning people like going crazy, doing some fancy like throws and using the momentum. Like the if I call it open here, do you have the speedruns? Is it linked on the HIO page or the Litamdari page?
No, you have to download the game and then there's a leaderboard section to the menu.
Oh, okay, yeah. So because I have that, I have the downloaded version of the game. If I quit out, does it restore me at my most recent checkpoint?
No, it doesn't.
No.
But
Oh,
I
okay.
don't believe this is the speedrun version.
Oh, right, you actually created a separate speedrun like version of the game. I forgot about that. Yes. But yeah, nonetheless, like, what's the current fastest time you've seen people beat the game?
Oh, I gotta check.
I think around 115 or 116 for 100%, which was pretty unexpected. I predicted it would be maybe around 125, 130. So it's really great to see players, you know, kind of push the boundaries of that. And we are actually interested in expanding those mechanics, adding some more like niche movement mechanics for speedrunners to utilize, while also ensuring that casual players are not affected by those additional mechanics. But
Yeah,
we
so
definitely do want to cater to the speedrunning community for sure.
I think that...
the expert here is in chat. Nerdsoul just come to 113.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I tried to compete with them for a while, but I couldn't keep up.
I think we're real lucky for the Score Chasers event that happened this gem. I didn't know about it previously in the other gems. I just went on Twitch streams to advertise the game for fun and for, you know, like exposure.
Mhm.
And I saw people being like, "Oh, this one would be good for the game jam. This would be good for the Score Chasers. This is a good Score Chasers game." And I was like, "What's Score Chasers?" You know, do a little digging around, join a few Discord servers, message a few streamers, and then I think on Richard was like, "Hey, would this be cool to add to the Score Chasers event?" And I think we got a lot of exposure that way, and kind of kickstarted a very nice speedrunning community. I think both Kuvi and Nerdsoul here in the chat were a big part of the event. Oh, you fell into the hole.
This is actually one of our regrets of the jam.
Yeah.
The
It's the worst
intended
puzzle.
solution for this puzzle was throw the javelin in the hole, and then use its momentum to make that big jump.
Oh,
But you can
okay.
just you can just bounce the spear off the spikes. So
Oh,
it's pretty. You have to throw it again. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
okay,
but then
well-
you can do a wall jump at the end. The speedrunners have figured out the way easier way to do it, where you just bounce it off the right wall.
yeah, I figured that I that's what I at first I thought, like, because you always throw the spear with the same momentum, so
Yeah, but it comes back to you at different speeds depending on how far away it is.
yes. But you also have to be in midair for it to work, so it's a little like, I don't know, there are some people for whom this sort of thing just absolutely clicks, and I am not one of them. But that's fine. Yeah, I'd love to hear what you had in mind in terms of the, like, making mechanics that still cater to speedrunners, but are, like, not alienating towards, let's say, like, casual players or first-time players, perhaps. Do you want to talk a little bit about, like, did you have any specific ideas in mind?
We've done some brainstormings and a few mechanics we have in the works. A lot of them are still theoretical right now, but we're trying to play in a space where we're giving the players more options for movement using level mechanics. As far as progression goes, the player themselves will not be getting like more abilities besides throwing the spear and returning the spear. But there will be new fun level mechanics to implement with, to maintain your momentum, to pivot it, to go in different directions. And we're going to use those to build puzzles that should be solved ideally very easily without having to make precise movements and without having to maintain speeds. But that wouldn't slow down anyone. Like, we won't have like a mechanic where you got to be very slow and deliberate. Push button here, wait for this to open, push button here, do this. It would be like, move this block here, and we'll design around a fast way to do it. And as far as player controller goes, I think that's all Mark.
Yeah, I think you got a lot of the main ideas behind it. We kind of want to limit momentum to either not using it at all for casual players, or if it's a direct consequence of a level element, then I think it's simple enough to use. I think the complexity comes in when you start to chain different sources of momentum. So when it comes to designing levels, we do want to limit that, although we are planning on having some challenge levels which aren't mandatory, which would maybe include some more difficult challenges for experienced players. But when it comes to the player controller, we have made a few experimental changes with the way momentum is applied, making it more consistent, and also changing how it works when you're standing on the ground. A big piece of feedback that we received was players were having trouble catching the spear while standing and like falling off of a platform.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
so
like
we've
on stream.
right. So we've changed that to no longer apply momentum unless you're moving in the same direction as momentum would push you in. So practically, when it comes to like a speedrunner playing the game, they don't feel any difference.
Mhm.
But for a casual player, it makes a big difference when they're just standing still trying to catch the spear.
Yeah, because that's definitely, like, you can see me going kind of like back and forth, like, let me catch this and not fall to my death. Well, I'm glad, because I managed to beat the game way faster this time than I did the first time around, but that's also because I think I was ignoring some of the optional berries. So...
I think the first time you did it, you were like, we have like 15 minutes left in stream, is this beatable in 50? And I was like, well, someone beat it in 1 minute, so... Yeah, it's my bad on that one.
No, that's the. It is funny because literally as you were mentioning it, I was thinking to myself like, oh, I wonder if you could sort of mitigate that by like if you press down to your character would crouch and then you would catch the spear without getting like flung by it. But I think that the solution that you found is also like quite elegant as well, because then, as you said, it's sort of intuitive that anyone who is expecting the game to work like that for as a speedrunner would not be like it's not going to interfere with the way that they are used to playing the game.
Right. Yeah, we tried to find a solution that doesn't, mess with the muscle memory of speedrunners, but also casual players will have a lot easier time playing it.
There's no collision here.
Yeah. That's a different layer.
Yeah.
That's actually on top of the ground, so there's just a missing ground tile.
I see.
So-
I see.
I think it's the only spot we forgot to add it in the game. It's just a shame it's in the ending room. Also, the ending screen was a big regret of mine. I feel like a lot of people left comments being like, "Hey, I don't know if I finished the game," or "Hey, I got lost. I couldn't beat it. I just ended up in this big room." And I was like, "No, you did it. Feel accomplished."
Yeah.
It is so tough. Like I assume that was a game jam constraint, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we built the entire game level wise in 4 or 5 hours, I think, on the last day.
Right at the end.
So yeah, we didn't even have time to test it really. We just kind of built it and wished for the best.
Submitted it with 2 minutes on the clock.
Yep. Yep. No, that's familiar, certainly. I guess the since then, like, have you been making tweaks? Or I guess so. You mentioned tweaking the character controller, and I guess that we can sort of infer from the conversation that like, you do have plans to keep working on the game in some capacity. But do you want to talk a little bit more about like how that's shaping up?
Sure. We can talk some about the full game plans. Nothing here is official. It's all work in progress. So don't take this as promises made.
Certainly.
Our current plan is to have 5 areas of the game. I don't know how much I want to actually give away.
Well,
We shouldn't talk about the story, right?
Yeah, probably not. We can talk about the scale and the scale kind of timeline we're shooting for.
Okay. So we want to have about 5 areas. Each area is going to be roughly 1.5 to 2 times the size of the game jam area. The first area is going to be the area from the game jam. We're hoping to have one boss at the end of each level. It's going to be some kind of platforming puzzle based around the arena you fight it in, and we'll leverage the spear mechanic to deal damage to them or interact with the environment in some way. The areas in the progression will have some kind of tying significance to an overarching plot. So there'll be like the character will be named, they will have dialogue, there will be characters you can talk with. We're trying to differentiate ourselves a little bit from Celeste, but think like Theo from Celeste. We're also we wanted to add some harder challenges for the speedrunners, the pro players, everyone who's like went above and beyond and beat the game in 1 minute 13 seconds and 33 milliseconds. We wanted to have a hard mode. Again, think B-sides from Celeste. So like hard variants, reusing all the level mechanics in the levels. And optionally, we also considered sort of streamer bait rage mode.
Oh no!
If you know games like Getting Over It, there's like that new Sisyphus game that came out, Ulta 4. We would have a sort of zigzagging, winding level going upwards with no checkpoints. So if you fall down until you hit terrain again.
Okay, you played through Worlds Within Worlds, so you know how much that pains me to hear.
Yeah, there's a lot of checkpoints in Worlds Within Worlds, but it's not streamer bait if it doesn't hurt.
And it's not intended to be part of the base game. It's more of like a side thing that players can try to do if they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, like, I've gotten about 50% of players say that Worlds Within Worlds is, like, just right in terms of difficulty. And then, like, 1/3 of players say, like, I want it to be much harder. And then the remaining. Sorry. I'm getting my fractions mixed up here, but just of the half, the remaining, like, 50%, let's say 30% say I want it to be a little bit harder, and 20% say I want it to be much harder. So it just kind of speaks to the fact that while I consider the challenge from Worlds Within Worlds to come from playing the game quickly, like, you might casually play a level in like 30 seconds or a minute, and then the speedrun for that level is like 10 seconds. Or there's one level that's like you play it casually, maybe you beat it in 20 seconds, and then the speedrun is 6 seconds. Like, it's I had a bit of a like back and forth with one of the other developers who's working on the game right now. And we just kept sending each other like, hey, I beat your best time, and then it was like we were trading back and forth on like beating each other's best time by like 50 milliseconds, like just this incredibly like small, like diminishing amounts of time. And definitely shouldn't have been spending that much time. Well, okay, I say that I shouldn't have been spending that much time. I got my sort of like better times within like a few amount of tries, but I'm speaking for myself here. I don't know how it was for him. But all that's to say, I feel like when it comes to accessibility features, including more checkpoints just doesn't really hurt anyone, because that just kind of eliminates the demoralizing feeling of, oh man, now I need to do it all again. Obviously, there are certain things that you want players to like make sure they learn the lesson and don't end up skipping over something that is supposed to teach them something important about like how the mechanics work in the game. But as long as they are sort of making forward progress and I guess you'd rather have the feeling of like consistently moving forward. Like, I remember this part in particular, when I would get to let's see, I think that if I were designing the levels in this game, I would put a checkpoint here where I'm standing now at this sort of like halfway point, just because I feel like this was it was already hard enough to get here, and now I have to do this next part without. Oh no! Okay.
This last screen in particular is a real tough one, and the levels were made kind of haphazardly in the last 4 hours.
Oh, as you said, of course.
Yeah, but we always tend to make the games a little bit too hard, because you kind of get used to the mechanics as you play them. We're like, we want this game to be real challenging. And then we're like, okay, you know what? This should be accessible. We want every streamer to beat the game if they can. Let's tone it down. And then we tone it down like 30%, and it still comes out hard.
Yeah. And that's just the nature of... Sorry, go ahead.
The rage bait mode I was talking about with no checkpoints, that's like completely distinct from the progression of the main game. Picture it as like a different game mode you choose in the main menu. As far as the main game go, we're going to have checkpoints at the entrance to each room. Potentially in between parts in a room. I don't know if we have plans for that, but we'll see the scale of rooms we end up with, because the scale of movement in this game's a lot bigger than games like Celeste. So we might need to opt for bigger rooms and a little bit more exploration type large scale rooms, but we'll see how the checkpoints go as we make a few more levels. Yeah,
I mean, I think that it is important to have a sort of like feel for what is the level of difficulty you're going for. Like, Worlds Within Worlds is decidedly a casual game. It is not a precision platformer. So if this game is supposed to be a precision platformer, then you can have more punishing checkpoints. It's just, in my mind, like, I gave up on playing Celeste because the checkpoints were so few and far in between. And it sounds crazy because like Celeste sort of gives you a checkpoint at the start of every screen, but even that was just too frustrating for me because like I would the example I just gave on the previous screen here, where you would, let's see, I don't even know if I can get myself back. Oh, I forgot you can actually stand on the tip of the spear. Of course you can.
We got a really cool fan art from one player of the main character standing there.
It's funny because it's a mechanic that you use early in the game, and then I just feel motivated to try and beat the rest of the game just using the momentum mechanic, and I forget that I can just...
That goes back to the you create your own challenge in the game. The thing you said with the Worlds Within Worlds, you said the level of difficulty comes from beating the game fast, not from just beating the levels. We're kind of trying to go for this, again, self-imposed challenge. These berries that you don't have to collect, this movement that is kind of multifaceted in the way you approach each jump. These other levels and games are going to be optionals. We're going to want the casual players to feel accomplished and feel that they beat the game when they beat the main story. That should be able to be done in whichever way they can do it. And then anything beyond that is just like an extra something for the real tryhards, the real sweats.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, like, again, that is a completely valid way of creating challenge. It's only because... So, okay, you can walk through the... Okay, I think that's why I forgot that the spear would have collision when it's vertical. It's because you can only stand on it when you actually jump on it. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Is that actually just because it has, like, a small collider?
Yeah,
at the very tip?
An edge collider.
There's a one-way platform at the very top, which also means if it's on the ceiling, you can actually stand on it. So.
Oh, so if it's like...
the spear straight up.
Yeah, well, I need to be on a lower ceiling, but...
Yeah. But that was not intended. The upside down platform was not intended.
I need to find some place with a low ceiling to try that now.
I think, yeah, right there should work.
No. Okay, come on. Anyway, I'll keep messing around with that. But the point that I was going to make, that I sort of cut myself off there. Nope, I forgot it. Sorry.
We're talking checkpoints, create your own difficulty.
Yeah.
Appeal to casual and tryhards alike.
Yeah, and I think that the sort of core idea of, like, anyone can complete it, and then in my case, like, the difficulty comes from the sort of, like, beat it faster. Because I think that players will sort of, like, naturally impose challenge upon themselves. Like, you see it all the time where people, like, play Pokemon the wrong way, but it's harder or something, and you get, like, your Nuzlocke challenges and so forth.
I will say, players like to impose their own challenge on them, I tend to find out.
Yeah.
They don't super like using, like, a blatant accessibility feature right away.
It's true, yes.
Celeste has really good accessibility feature. You can twist the game however you want, you can slow down the game speed, you can have multiple jumps in the air, you can even make MatterLinx, like, invincible, so you fall down a spike, you just walk it off.
Yeah.
But even with it, you said your main grab of the game was the difficulty and the checkpoints. It feels bad a little bit sometimes to be like, let me take the easy way out.
Yeah.
Players want to feel like this is the tailored experience, and I'm going to go above and beyond.
Yes, absolutely. And that is expressly why I used the sort of Mario Galaxy accessibility, like, little bubble, because it felt like something that was interactive. And other developers in the project have been like, why don't we add invincibility to this game? Why don't we make something that you, like, go into a menu and turn on invincibility? And I'm like, because that feels like a cheat code. It feels like a thing that people will not want to do. The butterfly already freezes hazards and makes them so they don't kill you. You don't need to be invincible on top of that. You shouldn't. You should be able to just move the butterfly and freeze one thing at a time and then move past it.
Exactly. It feels very seamless, and it's introduced in, like, the first or second mini level in the game, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like it's built-in part of the game. It's not something you go to the options and you toggle on. So we're trying to shoot for that kind of seamless thing where the players don't even know we're helping them out by giving them this easier approach to go about things.
Yeah, because it sort of goes both ways in terms of, like, you you want to have accessibility features there for people who want them and who need them. And I think that there are difficulty modifiers both to make the game easier for yourself and to make the game harder for yourself. Like there was obviously the opportunity to do like the self-imposed challenge, but you know, I've seen ROM hacks of Pokemon where like level caps are enforced. So rather than players just kind of like intentionally not leveling up their Pokemon beyond whatever the current gym leader is, or if they accidentally do overlevel, they're not allowed to use that Pokemon or something. Pokemon Yellow Legacy, I just watched a playthrough of that, and they like expressly made it so that Pokemon could not, like, it was actually baked into the mechanics of the game, and I think that's super cool because it allows you to feel like that is a legit part of the challenge, that it is not something that you have to kind of keep running in the back of your own head. And that is where, when I was transitioning from Worlds Within Worlds to working on it as part of my day job with the Bellwood Studios, we added in these like level clear screens after every level to actually clue the player in. It's like, okay, congratulations, you beat this level, but look, the goal clear time is like 10 seconds. So if you thought, oh, that was super easy, well, that's because the intention is for you to beat it that fast. So if you thought it was too easy, try again, and this time see if you can beat... We have 2 times. We have the sort of silver and gold medal, and that sort of gives players a sort of casual goal to shoot for, and a sort of like hardcore, the best time that I, as the developer, can beat the level in minus 1 second.
It's the way I think of it is like you give them a difficulty setting, but you don't make it a button, you don't make it a click. You say, yes, here's the game, here's like we've moved the end goal up or down. Tailor your own experience how you want. Some games have different ways of doing it. The completion time is a fun one. Some games, this is not a good example I'm going to give. Dark Souls, I know, has like a ring that makes you take double damage or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, again, it all comes down to players tailoring their own difficulty, making their own challenges. The design space.
Right. I think Elden Ring is actually maybe a better example.
Oh yeah.
With their Spirit Summons. I think a decent portion of the players don't use Spirit Summons just because they're familiar with FromSoft games and they kind of feel like it's cheating. But for a casual player that hasn't had much experience, that just seems like an integrated part of the game.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like they're cheating at all, right? Because it's not like a menu option. So I think that's what we're trying to aim for. And even integrating difficulty into the level as an option. So for example, in Celeste you have those berries that have the wings that fly away when you dash. Something similar to that, having a reward that incentivizes you to play the level in a harder way, is also something we definitely want to explore.
Yeah, and I think that there's the ability to, like, you can pretty easily slap a time trial onto something and say, like, hey, that's it, just play the game, but do it faster. One thing that I explored in an earlier game was, rather than having achievements for just like beat the game in X amount of time, I added in these specific mini challenges where you had to like beat this level without getting spotted. In a game that was like normally not about stealth, it was like if an enemy spots you, they'll summon reinforcements, but you can just blow past them. It's not a big deal. But I did expressly design that level to be possible so that you can beat it without getting spotted. So then the sort of challenge, the achievement became like, hey, jump into this level and beat it without getting spotted. Like, take advantage of the difficulty behind that and the design work that I put into this, and just see for yourself that this is possible. And there are these like hidden aspects to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It is like dynamic challenges. Ideally, each level should be completable in like multiple different ways. It does sometimes sting, like making a challenge like the puzzle that we said was a big regret over there on the left side. that people just tricked into getting it by bouncing it off the right wall spikes. They're like, that's not the intended way. Damn. But stock people liked it. Whatever works. But if we could somehow incentivize them to think about it a bit longer and do it the right way, could be cool.
I'm of two minds of that. I don't know. Did you ever see the developer commentary on Portal?
On Portal?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So there's
Many years ago. I forgot all of it.
It's a really great feature where you can just turn on developer commentary and there'll be these little speech bubbles you can like point and click on, and then a developer's voice will come and actually like describe something about that part of the game. And so that way you're still playing the game and you see exactly what the developer is commenting on at the time. And one of the neat things that they were talking about in a certain test chamber, I don't remember which one it is, but I think it's like one of the like middle, like I'm going to say like first third of the game where you're still learning about some of the basic mechanics of the game, of how to use the portal gun. And they said, well, some playtesters realized that you could just put a portal here and jump off and sort of fling yourself to the end level, which we thought about like removing or making it impossible, but we decided it's fine because it arguably takes more skill and a better understanding of the mechanics to do it that way. And I would say that's kind of the case here. Like to realize that you can use the like bouncing the spear mechanic to get that berry like takes a very thorough understanding of how that works. And it's not to say that you can't like find some other opportunity where you have to like utilize this fling. Although I'm curious because for this specific berry, is there a way to get that just like using the spear as a platform, or is that like spear as platform is just a way to beat the base game? It's not to collect the berries.
Yeah, no. All the berries, we didn't keep the design philosophy of it should be compatible with the spear as a platform for the berries.
Okay.
Just for the base game. The optional stuff is to push you out of your comfort zone and kind of interface with the harder mechanics.
Yeah. I think so. This puzzle in particular, I think we did a pretty bad job of conveying what the intended solution is. Mainly because of the screen positioning, and it's not super clear that you should throw the spear down.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in the future, we definitely want to improve the readability of puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's with indicators or just more clear level elements. But yeah, going back to what you said about having multiple ways of completing the puzzle, I think that's a really good design philosophy, as long as the intended or the easy solution is the one that comes to mind first.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you might get a player stuck trying to solve it in the harder way, which is not intended, as an expectation from them, which I think happened here.
It's very true, because you do have that awful feeling, and I find that it's something that you almost have to sort of find a way to like build trust with your players. Like one of the frustrations that I had in playing through Shovel Knight was like instant death pits. And I was like, oh man, I really hate it when a game has like these pits, you just fall off the bottom of the screen and you die. So one of the like very first levels of my game, I made it so you need to make a blind drop off the bottom of the screen. And like theoretically, you will have moved the camera over in that direction and seen like the result of where you're going to land. Like you work your way up and then you drop back down. And I was really hoping to communicate to players like, don't worry, going down is a valid thing you do in this game. There are no instant death obstacles or like bottomless pits. So I feel like part of your level design should be working to communicate that to the players and help sort of get across as like, don't worry, this challenge is not as difficult as you're making it seem. I have definitely seen that. Hey, it's Boats, welcome. I've definitely seen that happen I have a younger cousin. I was watching him play through Breath of the Wild, and he just ignored one of the pieces of the level. And admittedly, it was one of the trickier puzzles in the game, and he didn't know what to do with it, so he just ignored it, and just proceeded to use like all kinds of tools to like make the game way harder on himself. And I'm thinking like, oh no, this is you're making it so much harder on yourself than you need to be. So I definitely get that, wanting to avoid that feeling.
I do like Breath of the Wild though, like the open world like sandboxy approach they have. Like, in that scenario, it's like he's making it harder for himself. But the fact that he has so many different ways of solving the challenge, that he can like choose that like way off the beaten path approach and still have it work in the end, is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was this ridiculous thing where he got like you were supposed to set up a mechanism where a laser would hit a switch that would turn it on and off on an alternating fashion to move these like platforms up and down. And he just ignored the laser and did a bunch of like crazy jumping and gliding to get up to the first platform, then took out a meteor wand and just started randomly casting it so that it would like the bouncing balls of fire would like run around and hopefully, like fingers crossed, eventually like hit the switch and make like bring him up higher. But the durability on it was so low that it would only work to bring him up like a couple levels, and it never quite got him to the top. I'm just like, oh my god, you have made this so much harder than it needed to be.
Yep. Anytime I saw Celeste also two friends and they get stuck on a level, what I always tell them is, if you fail the jump 5 times, that's not the jump you should be making. Like, take like a second, look at the puzzle. The developers definitely put in like an easier approach. Look at the level. It's like, oh, you totally forgot this wall here you can jump on. You don't need to make a very precise like corner angle, frame perfect jump. So hopefully that should be the case here. I know our controls are not as analog or more analog. I forget the meaning of analog. But we don't have like the quantized 8 directions of Celeste. We don't have like the super specific jump up from a wall, slide, or grab to take things more methodically. But we are gonna shoot for that level design where if the jump is right, if it's one of the approaches that was designed, it should feel that way for the casual players when they try to do it. They shouldn't have to make the precise jumps that the speedrunners do.
Yeah.
Although I think that might be a bit more challenging for us because momentum in this game isn't. It's not as consistent. Meaning, like, you can chain momentum, so there could be some cases where a jump isn't intended, but you can still make it work. So I think I foresee that being a bit of a challenge, kind of enforcing the intended solution when they learn how to use momentum. I think it's okay to have different solutions to puzzles, but if the solution becomes too trivial using momentum, then I think that's when it becomes an issue. So we're going to definitely have to do a lot of playtesting for this game. And I think that'll take up a big portion of development, just playtesting levels, getting feedback from players. I think that's probably the second most important thing besides the actual design of the systems and mechanics.
Yeah, there was one thing I was going to mention just in terms of like where you throw the javelin, like because like forming platforms is supposed to be your most like casual way of completing the game, and yet if I throw the javelin, it doesn't go where my cursor is. It's following in like a gravity-bound arc. So, have you thought about like illustrating the arc of like how something is going to fly, or how the javelin is going to fly when you throw it?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So that is. We don't know if we want that to be a default enabled option or as an accessibility option, but we're definitely going to add that in some capacity.
I think it should be default for controllers, because with controllers it's a bit harder to see where it's going to go. Yes. I think Jerem wants another streamer. It's like you guys need a peace stream for the spear throw to see where it goes. So
I mean, that's one way of saying it.
Yeah, we'll have to toggleable on the options of default for controller.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I'm glad that was something you already thought of, because it's just like a really, like, it's not necessarily a trivial thing to do that calculation. Like, are you using Unity physics for this?
No, it's all custom physics.
Oh, okay. Well, that actually paradoxically makes it easier to do, because if you are using your own physics, then you can sort of run the calculation forward in time yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is it more deterministic that way?
Oh, I mean, Unity physics is deterministic because it works on a fixed time step. But in terms of like simulating it in the code, I think it is easier because, it's not a black box system.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. So, this is one of the questions I love to ask. What was the most difficult problem that you encountered during the jam, and what was your solution?
I feel like this one was kind of smooth sailing.
Yeah, I don't think we ran into any big issues. Let's see.
Just difficult all around because you gotta crunch for that the full time. I guess once the character controller is done, it's fun to just like mess around in the scene and like put 3 collectibles down, see how fast you can grab them, and then not do work for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think we maybe wasted like 2 hours just playing it.
Was there anything we had to cut? There were a few puzzles that didn't make it in. I know when I put in this last level, I meant to grab one of the other puzzles that we really liked. It was like the best puzzle that we had for one of the optional collectibles, and I dragged in the wrong one, which is the one we regret adding in. So that one didn't make it. I guess just the last minute level design. Didn't get to do an ending screen. Yeah, I think that's the big stuff.
Yeah, we never ran into any like big issues when implementing mechanics. It all just kind of went pretty smoothly. I think that's because our scope was pretty small. We had some prior experience making platformers, so we knew it wouldn't be technically difficult. It's just a matter of executing it in the time that we had.
We also had a bigger team than usual. Usually we participate with 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
This time we had an extra helping us with the not an extra an extra team member helping us with the sound effects, doing everything in Fmod, which let me tell you, going back playing other jam games now that don't have like tailor-made sound effects, or just like taken off of a Humble Bundle pack, or don't have sound effects at all, it makes a world of difference. It's crazy how much like responsiveness and game feel it adds to just have a sound effect, like especially when you throw and collect a spear. That's my favorite one.
Yeah.
So like choo-choo. Yeah. So yeah, we went with something familiar. We had a bigger team size. We didn't have to cut any content. So I guess next time we'll try to have a bigger challenge.
Yeah.
So you sort of mentioned like putting in a puzzle that you had in mind. Did you sort of like build out the level in smaller chunks in sort of like experimentation phase and then sort of stitch those together after the fact?
Yes. So our strategy was one of us would cater like small puzzles in a test level, testing out different ideas for mechanics, and the other would work on the actual grander level design. And then wherever we wanted to, we would just kind of drag in those puzzle components, adding them in to the greater level. And
Nice.
I think that was a good strategy, because without that, I don't foresee us finishing the level design in time.
Yeah, we would have had the tutorial screen and then like one level and that's it. If you're talking, I think you muted. I see your lips moving on stream, but I don't hear.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to see if I could pull something up, because I have done something very similar where I had like a bunch of different level ideas for Worlds Within Worlds, and then I sort of like used Paint, like literally just grabbing sections of a level and breaking them out into their constituent challenges, and then thinking of how to stitch these back together. Because the challenges that you've played in Worlds Within Worlds are sort of like the V2 version of the game. Like each one of these levels had been completed before, and then I basically scrapped it and rebuilt it using some of the pieces that I knew would work. which I find is just a like it's pretty exhausting to like fully rebuild everything, but your second idea is always better.
Oh yeah. Also, just specifically the like optional berry collectibles.
Yeah.
I think are kind of more standalone and don't flow into the overall kind of movement through the level. Because we don't want the casual players to be like, well, this is in the way, I have to do this. No, it should just be a little divot on the side. You can be like, hey, checking in. Oh, there's a berry. Let me get that.
Yeah, I appreciate having the. Sorry?
We were using Tiled. I'm not sure if you're aware of the software, but it's like a tile map creation software.
Okay.
And there's a plugin with Unity that you can kind of mesh them two together. That really saved us a lot of time. But like without using the built-in tile system in Unity, would have definitely limited our ability to make this game for sure.
Yeah.
Especially since you can also do object replacement in Tiled, so you can put an object in the Tiled software, and then in Unity you replace it with a prefab. So it's a super great tool, and yeah, we're glad that we use that for sure.
In the first game jam we've done like 5 years ago, Rabbit Bow, we didn't have the tool or auto tiling. We placed like the sprite for every tile that we wanted on the ground. We're like, okay, this is the corner piece. This is the second layer corner piece. This is facing up. This is the other material. Took forever.
Yeah, being sorry.
Sorry, the material system as well. So the bouncing mechanic, it works based on the material of the tile. So in Tiled, we basically have separate layers for the metal and the stone, which adds triggers, and then a overlap point is done to determine what material you're standing on, or what material the spear is going into. So just automating that whole process with Tiled was super important for us.
Oh, I didn't even realize that there is actually a distinction here between this is something that's like this surface here, that's the stone that the spear bounces off of, and that's why like here in this corner the spear just kind of bounces because it's hitting stone, as opposed to the foreground sort of this layer, which is the sort of regular ground the spear sticks into.
Right. And the stone actually it works the same way the metal does, but it actually bounces a little less.
Yes.
We are looking into having different materials in the future, and maybe tweaking the current materials we have now. And we also use that for the sound effects as well, so that came in handy, with like walking on the ground, landing on the different surface types. So it all kind of came in together at the end.
Initially, I was like, we don't need both stone and metal for bounce. We just keep it simple. We have one of them. And then our audio guy made the sound effects one. I was like, oh my god, this is so good. Let's keep it in.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that sort of inspired you to add that in. And it also provides a little bit of extra visual flair.
Yeah, we didn't want the place to be completely filled with metal or completely filled with stone. It's kind of ambiguous what it is. It's kind of meant to be an overgrown like city ruin area. Yeah. Most of that comes through from the background. Like, what tiles can we add here?
Yeah, I like the really like clean minimalist background, but it's got the nice like parallax effect on it as well. So yeah, that's super cool. I mean, so where can people follow the like ongoing development of the game?
So we have a Discord channel or a Discord server linked in the game page at the bottom.
Yep.
A couple of people, I think most of the faces you see here in chat are already in it.
We'll share it nonetheless.
We're going to send updates as we have like cool new visual stuff for people to test, new levels. A couple of speedrunners here in the chat I know would be very handy to have playtest a few things. But yeah, we'll post updates through there. It's a good way to connect with other speedrunners. And yeah, There's been a bunch of people joining recently. I don't know what happened, but there's been like a big like resurgence in traffic for the game last week.
Awesome.
Like our views and plays per days jumped up like even higher than during the Score Chasers event or during the Ludum So plenty of new people joining the server. It's really cool.
That sounds excellent. All right, well, thank you so much for both taking the time to talk about the game and your experience in working on it. And I look forward to seeing additional developments as the game progresses. Like if you have a sort of public-facing build, I'd always be happy to like show it off on stream, give my sort of like recorded impressions of it. So yeah, I guess we'll just keep in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really enjoyed this interview, and it was great speaking to you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.